I never told my granddaughter that I owned 17 properties across 3 states. She always saw me as the woman who made apple pie from scratch, who wore the same cardigan for years, who drove a 12-year-old pickup truck. So when she invited me to meet her fiancé's family at their estate in Connecticut, I decided to give them exactly what they expected: a simple, uneducated grandmother from rural Virginia. What happened that weekend shattered their world in ways they never saw coming. And honestly, they earned every bit of it. Let me tell you who I really am. My name is Eleanor, and I am 67 years old. My granddaughter, Lily, 28, has known me her whole life as Grandma Ellie, the woman who lives in a farmhouse outside Charlottesville, who grows tomatoes in the summer and makes preserves in the fall. She visits me twice a year, usually for Thanksgiving and sometimes in July. She calls me on Sundays. She sends me photos of her life in New York City, her apartment, her job at a marketing firm, her boyfriend. That is where this story begins. His name is Preston Whitmore III. Yes, the third. The kind of name that comes with expectations, with legacy, with money older than most American cities. Lily met him at a charity gala 2 years ago, and within 6 months, she was head over heels. She called me one Sunday, breathless with excitement. "Grandma," he proposed. "We are getting married." I was happy for her, truly. But something in her voice made me pause, a nervousness that did not belong there, a hesitation. "That is wonderful, sweetheart. When do I get to meet him?" There was a silence. Then she said, "His family wants to meet you first. They are hosting a weekend at their estate. They want to get to know you before the wedding." The way she said it, "get to know you," felt wrong. It felt like an audition. "What have you told them about me?" I asked. Another pause. "I told them you live in Virginia, that you are retired, that you are simple and kind." Simple. There was that word again, the same word my own daughter used to describe me before she passed. God rest her soul. Simple mama. As if my entire existence could fit into that one little box. "I will be there," I said. "Just tell me when." What Lily did not know, what no one in my family knew, was that I had spent 40 years building an empire. Not a flashy empire. Not the kind that gets featured in magazines or talked about at cocktail parties. A quiet empire. Real estate mostly. I started with one rental property in Mutngincham, a small duplex I bought with money I saved working double shifts at a textile factory. I fixed it up myself, rented it out, saved the income, bought another, then another, then another. By the time I turned 50, I owned 12 properties. By 60, I owned 23. I sold a few over the years, reinvested in others. Right now, my portfolio is worth somewhere around $14 million. I collect roughly $30,000 a month in rental income alone, not counting my investments, not counting the land I own in 3 counties. But you would never know it looking at me. I wear flannel shirts from the clearance rack at the farm supply store. I drive that old pickup because it still runs fine. I live in my farmhouse because I love it, because my late husband built the porch with his own hands, because the sunrise over those fields is worth more than any mansion. I do not need to prove anything to anyone. I never have. So when Lily sent me the details about the Whitmore estate, about the formal dinner, about the weekend of activities, I made a decision. If they expected a simple country grandmother, I would give them one. I would dress plainly. I would speak little. I would let them show me exactly who they were when they thought they were dealing with someone beneath them. Because I had a feeling about the Whitmores, a feeling that their interest in meeting me was not about welcoming me into the family. It was about assessing whether I would be a problem, whether I would embarrass them, whether I could be managed. My instincts are rarely wrong. The Friday of that weekend arrived cold and gray. November in Connecticut. I packed a small suitcase with my oldest clothes, a faded floral dress for the dinner, worn shoes, no jewelry except my wedding ring, which I never take off. I did not style my hair, just pulled it back in a simple bun. I looked in the mirror before I left. I looked like exactly what they expected, a woman past her prime, forgettable, harmless, perfect. The drive took 6 hours. I could have flown, could have rented a car at the airport, but I wanted to arrive in my pickup. I wanted them to see it parked next to their luxury vehicles. I wanted to give them every reason to underestimate me. The Whitmore estate sat at the end of a long private drive lined with oak trees. The house itself was massive, a colonial revival mansion with white columns and manicured gardens, a fountain in the circular driveway, staff waiting at the front door. I parked my truck next to a Mercedes and a Range Rover. A young man in a uniform approached, looking at my vehicle like it might be contagious. "May I help you, ma'am?" "I am here for the Whitmore gathering. I am Lily's grandmother." His eyebrows rose slightly. "Of course. Welcome. I can have someone park your vehicle, if you prefer." "No need. She is fine right there." I grabbed my suitcase and walked toward the entrance. The doors opened before I reached them. And there was Lily, beautiful in a cream sweater and pearl earrings, looking nervous. "Grandma." She hugged me, but I felt the tension in her body. "I am so glad you made it. Come in, come in." Inside, the house was exactly what I expected. High ceilings, antique furniture, oil paintings of stern ancestors on the walls. Everything designed to impress, to intimidate, to remind you of your place. "They are in the sitting room," Lily whispered as we walked. "Just be yourself, okay?" I smiled. "Of course, sweetheart." The sitting room was large, with a fireplace crackling at one end and tall windows overlooking the gardens. 3 people were waiting. Preston stood first. He was handsome in that polished, magazine cover way. Tall, dark hair, a jaw that looked like it was designed by committee. He wore a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. "Mrs. Carter," he said, extending his hand. "It is a pleasure to finally meet you." His grip was weak. His smile did not reach his eyes. Beside him sat his mother, Victoria Whitmore. She was perhaps 60, maybe younger with good work done. Blonde hair perfectly styled, a silk blouse, diamonds at her ears and throat. She looked at me the way one looks at a piece of furniture that does not match the room. "Eleanor." She did not stand. Her voice was cool, measured. "How lovely that you could join us. Lily has told us so much about you." She had not. I could tell. On the couch sat Preston's father, Charles Whitmore II. Silver hair, a navy blazer with gold buttons, the bearing of a man who has never been told no in his life. He nodded at me but did not speak. "Please, sit." Victoria gestured to a chair, the smallest one, the one furthest from the fire. I sat. "How was your drive?" Preston asked, the way one asks about the weather when there is nothing else to say. "Long, but pleasant. The leaves are beautiful this time of year." Victoria glanced at her husband. "You drove? All the way from Virginia?" "I did." "In that truck we saw outside?" "Yes, ma'am. Had her for 12 years. Still runs like a dream." Victoria's lips pressed together, a smile that was not a smile. "How economical." Lily sat beside me, her hand finding mine. Her palm was sweating. Dinner was announced by a man in a white jacket. We moved to the dining room, a table set with more silverware than I had ever seen in one place. Crystal glasses, cloth napkins, candles in silver holders. I sat where Victoria indicated. Again, the end of the table. The children's seat. The first course arrived. Some kind of soup with an unpronounceable name. I picked up the wrong spoon deliberately. Victoria noticed. Her eyes flickered, and she exchanged a glance with her husband. "So, Eleanor," Victoria began, dabbing her lips with her napkin, "Lily tells us you live on a farm." "I do. Small place. Just me now since my husband passed." "I am sorry to hear that." Victoria did not sound sorry. "And what did your husband do?" "He was a carpenter. Built furniture, mostly. Some construction." Blue-collar work." Victoria nodded slowly. "Honest work." Charles spoke for the first time. "And you? Did you work? Or were you a homemaker?" "I was a homemaker mostly. I helped out here and there. Factory work when the kids were small." "Factory work." Charles repeated it like the words tasted strange in his mouth. "I see." The main course arrived. Beef Wellington, exquisitely prepared. Victoria mentioned it had been prepared by their personal chef, trained in Paris. She mentioned Paris 3 times. This must be quite different from what you are used to, Victoria said, watching me cut my meat. Country cooking is charming, of course, but there is something about French technique. I just smiled. Everything is delicious. Preston leaned forward. So, Mrs. Carter, Lily mentioned you do not travel much. Have you ever been abroad? I have not had the opportunity. What a shame. Travel expands the mind, opens perspectives. Victoria sighed. We have homes in 3 countries. The children grew up spending summers in the south of France. How nice for them, I said. Lily squeezed my hand under the table. The conversation continued. They talked about their investments, their connections, their circles. Victoria mentioned senators by first name. Charles discussed his golf games with CEOs. Every sentence was designed to measure the distance between us, to remind me that I did not belong. And then came the moment I had been waiting for. Victoria set down her wine glass and looked at me directly. Eleanor, I hope you do not mind me being frank. Not at all. We are concerned. She folded her hands. Lily is a wonderful girl, and Preston adores her, but marriage into this family comes with certain expectations, social obligations, public appearances. We need to know that everyone in the family can represent us appropriately. I kept my face neutral. I understand. Charles cleared his throat. What my wife means is that we are prepared to help. We know that your situation is modest. We would be happy to provide a monthly allowance to ensure you are comfortable, perhaps help you relocate somewhere more accessible. More accessible, I repeated. Closer to proper amenities, Victoria added. That farm must be isolating. And at your age, living alone, I took a sip of water. And what would this allowance look like? We were thinking $2,000 a month, Charles said, enough to cover your needs. In exchange, we would expect you to attend family events when requested, dressed appropriately, of course, and otherwise maintain a low profile. Lily stood up suddenly. This is not what we discussed. You said you wanted to welcome her into the family. We are welcoming her, Victoria said smoothly. We are offering her financial security. Many people would be grateful. By paying her to stay quiet? To stay out of the way? Lily, Preston said sharply. Calm down. I watched all of this unfold. The daughter I raised, who raised this wonderful granddaughter, would have been so proud of Lily in that moment, standing up, fighting back, but I did not need her to fight for me. I set my napkin on the table. Everyone turned to look at me. Mrs. Whitmore, I said, my voice different now, not timid, not small, clear and cold as January. May I ask you something? Victoria blinked. Of course. How much is this estate worth? The land, the house, everything. She hesitated, caught off guard. I do not see how that is relevant. Humor me, Charles answered. Appraised at $12 million last year. I nod slowly. $12 million. And your other properties? The home in France, the others you mentioned? Victoria frowned. Combined, perhaps another $8 million. Why? So roughly $20 million in real estate. I leaned back in my chair. That is impressive. Truly. Victoria relaxed slightly, thinking she had won something. We have worked very hard. I am sure you have. But I have a question. Did you build that wealth yourself, or did you inherit it? Charles sputtered. I beg your pardon? It is a simple question. Did you start from nothing and build it brick by brick? Or did it come to you through family? Victoria's face reddened. Our families have always had money. That is not something to be ashamed of. Of course not, I smiled. But there is a difference, is there not, between inheriting wealth and creating it? I do not understand what you are implying, Charles said. Let me explain. I sat up straighter. In 1985, I was 30 years old. I worked double shifts at a textile factory for minimum wage. I saved every penny I could. And with that money, I bought a duplex. A rundown little building that no one else wanted. They stared at me. I fixed it up myself. Learned plumbing from library books. Learned electrical from a neighbor. Rented it out. Saved the income. Bought another property. Then another. And another. Lily's eyes widened. Grandma, what are you saying? I am saying that over the past 40 years, I have built a real estate portfolio worth approximately $14 million. I collect about $80,000 a month in rental income, not counting investments, not counting the land I own in 3 counties. The silence was absolute. Charles dropped his fork. Victoria's face went pale. Preston looked like someone had slapped him. "That is," Victoria stammered, "that is not possible." "Why? Because I wear old clothes? Because I drive a truck? Because I live in a farmhouse?" Lily was crying now, but smiling. "Grandma, why did you never tell me?" "Because money was never the point, sweetheart. I never wanted you to see me differently because of a number in a bank account. I wanted you to love me for who I am, not what I have." "But," Preston managed, "if you have that kind of money, why would you live like what?" I looked at him directly. "Like someone beneath you?" He did not answer. I turned to Victoria. "You offered me $2,000 a month to stay quiet and out of the way. Let me make you a counteroffer. I will give you $2 million right now if you can tell me one kind thing you have done for someone who could do nothing for you in return." Victoria opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. "That is what I thought." I stood up. "You measure people by their bank accounts. You treated me like a problem to be solved, an embarrassment to be hidden, a poor relation to be managed. And now you discover that I have more money than you do. And suddenly I am worthy of respect?" "I am not finished," I continued. "The tragedy is not that you treated me poorly. The tragedy is that you have taught your son to do the same. And if Lily marries into this family, she will spend her whole life trying to measure up to standards that have nothing to do with what matters." "Lily." Victoria's voice was shaky. "This is a misunderstanding." "No," Lily said, wiping her eyes. "This is clarity. I watched you tonight. I watched how you looked at my grandmother, how you talked to her, how you treated her, and I realized you would treat any grandchildren we had the same way if they did not meet your standards." Preston reached for her hand. "Lily, let us talk about this privately." She pulled away. "There is nothing to talk about. I cannot marry into a family that would pay off my grandmother to keep her out of sight." Preston looked at his parents, at me, at Lily. His face cycled through confusion, anger, desperation. "Lily, you are overreacting. We can work this out." "I do not want to work it out." She took off her engagement ring and placed it on the table. "I want a partner whose family sees people for who they are, not what they have." Victoria stood up, furious. "You are making a terrible mistake. Our son is a catch. Women would line up for him." "Then let them," Lily said. "I am done lining up." She turned to me. "Grandma, I am so sorry. I should have seen this sooner. I should have protected you." I hugged her. "You did, sweetheart. You just did." We left that night. Lily drove my truck while I sat in the passenger seat, watching the Whitmore estate shrink in the rearview mirror. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Finally, she asked, "Grandma, why did you never tell anyone about the money?" I thought about it. "Because I watched money change people, sweetheart. I watched my own brother become someone I did not recognize when he inherited our parents' farm and sold it for profit. I watched neighbors tear each other apart over estates and wills. I did not want that for our family. But you let everyone think you were struggling." "I never said I was struggling," people assumed, and I let them, because I wanted to know who loved me for me, not for what I could give them. Lily nodded slowly. "I understand." "Do you?" She smiled through her tears. "I do now." We drove through the night, stopping at a diner somewhere in Pennsylvania for coffee and pancakes. The waitress was tired, working a late shift, but she smiled at us warmly, refilled our cups without being asked, called us honey and sweetheart. I left her a $200 tip. Lily watched me do it. She did not say anything, but I saw something change in her eyes. An understanding. We arrived at my farmhouse as the sun was rising. The light was golden over the fields, the way it always is in late autumn. Lily stood on the porch my husband built, watching the sunrise. "I never appreciated this place before," she said. "I always thought it was just where you lived because you could not afford anything else. This place is worth more than any mansion." I said. Not because of what it would sell for, because of what it holds. Memories, love, peace. She hugged me. Can I stay for a while, Grandma? I need to figure things out. Stay as long as you need. 3 weeks later, Lily was still there. She had quit her job in New York, put her apartment up for lease, and was helping me with the properties. She had a talent for it, it turned out. A sharp mind for numbers, an eye for potential. I started teaching her what I knew, not because I needed help, but because she asked, because she wanted to learn, because she understood now that wealth was not about accumulation. It was about building something that mattered. One evening, we sat on the porch together, watching the sun set. Grandma, she said, I have been thinking. About what? About the Whitmores, about how they became that way. I waited. Preston told me once that his father never hugged him, never said he loved him, just handed him money and expected gratitude. His mother was the same. Affection came with conditions. Love was transactional. I nodded. That explains a lot. I felt sorry for him, she admitted. For a while. But then I realized that understanding where cruelty comes from does not mean you have to accept it. You can have compassion and still walk away. That is wisdom, sweetheart. She smiled. I learned from the best. A few months later, I received a letter. It was from Victoria Whitmore. I almost threw it away without reading it, but something made me open it. It was short. Eleanor, I have thought about your question every day since that dinner. I cannot answer it. I realized I have spent my entire life measuring people by what they could do for me, and I have nothing to show for it except a son who does not call and a granddaughter I will never know. I am not writing to ask for forgiveness. I am writing to tell you that you were right about everything. Victoria. I read it twice. Then I folded it and put it in a drawer. Some people change, some people do not. The important thing is that we cannot wait around, hoping they will. We have to live our lives, set our boundaries, protect our peace. Lily married 2 years later. A young man she met through the real estate business, a contractor who reminded me of my late husband, honest, hardworking, kind. The kind of man who sees a person before he sees a bank account. At the wedding, Lily asked me to make a toast. I stood up in front of 100 people, in my farmhouse backyard, surrounded by fairy lights and laughter and love. When I was young, I said, I thought wealth was about what you had. How much money in the bank. How big your house. What car you drove. I spent 40 years building something, and I never told anyone, because I wanted to know who would love me when they thought I had nothing. I looked at Lily, at her husband, at the friends and family gathered around. What I learned is that real wealth is not about how much you have. It is about how much you give, how much kindness you carry, how many people would stand beside you even if you lost everything. That is the only inheritance worth having. That is the only legacy that matters. I raised my glass. To Lily and James, may you always be rich in the ways that count. Everyone cheered. After the reception, when the guests had gone and the caterers were packing up, Lily found me sitting on the porch. Grandma, she said, thank you. For what? For teaching me that sometimes pretending to have nothing is the only way to see who truly has everything, not in money, but in heart. I smiled and took her hand. That is not something I taught you, sweetheart. That is something you always knew. You just needed permission to believe it. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we watched the stars come out over the fields. I never pretended again after that. I did not need to. I had seen what I needed to see. I had said what I needed to say. I had protected what needed protecting. Victoria and Charles continued to be who they were, rich in dollars, poor in everything else. Preston married someone from their circle eventually, someone who understood the rules of their world. I heard they have a house in the Hamptons now. I still live in my farmhouse, still drive my truck, still make apple pie from scratch, and grow tomatoes in the summer. Lily visits every month now. She and James are expecting their first child in the spring. I am going to be a great-grandmother. And when that baby is born, I am going to teach them what I taught Lily. That kindness matters more than currency. That character outweighs capital. That the richest people in the world are often the ones who never talk about money at all. Because in the end, we all become dust. with or without the mansions, with or without the diamonds, with or without the pedigree. What remains is how we made people feel. What stays is the love we gave freely. What lasts is the legacy of decency we leave behind. I am Eleanor Carter, grandmother, landlord, quiet millionaire, woman who once pretended to have nothing to find out who had everything. And I would not trade this life for anything. Not for all the estates in Connecticut. Not for all the names with numerals after them. Not for all the money in the world, because I already have what money cannot buy. Peace, love, family, truth. And that, my friends, is the real fortune. Did you enjoy this story? I would love to hear where you are listening from. Drop me a comment below and tell me, have you ever been judged by people who did not know your true worth? How did you handle it? If this story touched you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. There is so much more to share. And if you want to support the channel, you can send a super thanks. It helps me keep bringing you these stories. Until next time, this is Auntie Maeve, reminding you that your value is never determined by someone else's inability to see it. Take care now.